Hi everyone. Okay, so I'm going to start this video by saying I am really sick. Um, and I kind of got beat up by a cat yesterday. Just compare notes for a second. Like that's pretty swollen. Um, I'm not dying. The doctor assured me that I would survive this ordeal. Anybody out there who has a cat or knows of a cat who's like this, um, or has worked with cats or in a vet clinic knows that some cats just are not friendly. Normally, I can get a cat, like I'll get a cat in, and I can do the cat. You know, I can do everything the cat needs to be done. I can clip nails and give him a bath, and, whatever. And I usually don't lose appendages. But this cat was not happy with me, so I'm a little sick and sore. But like a good YouTube person that I am, I decided that I don't have any appointments because I can't do anything. So I take a minute and do the video. So I had somebody comment on one of my other videos about traveling with your bird um, in regards to socializing. So essentially what this person is asking um, is when they bring their bird out, um, if they should let people pet him, the bird. If it's okay to let strangers pet your bird. Now, this really depends on the bird. I am huge on socializing. I think it makes any sort of pet. So things like this don't happen. Um, it makes um, living with any pet a lot more enjoyable when you know that you don't have to freak out if somebody decides to stick their finger close to any animal. Um, Birds, I guess just a few things you want to just keep in the back of your mind when you bring your birds outside, um, especially with people who don't know birds or um, who are little or who are really forward and your bird's acting uncomfortable. Um, so the first thing that I like to tell people when they bring their birds outside um, is make sure you kind of keep an eye on people coming and going. Um, I always, when I have Goody outside, especially because he is so big, um, when I'm walking, I will. I have a stroller for him, but if I happen to be just carrying him, I will often wear a dark colored shirt because he's white, so people can see him. So they kind of, as they see him when they are approaching me. Um, and I do this for my own benefit because then I can see from their reaction that they see that I have a big bird, um, and that helps me, and it also helps uh, the person to see that you've got something. Um, so that's something that I do personally. It's not something that it may or may not work for you. Um, but I just find it's easier so that when people come up to me, they're approaching me on the sidewalk, they see that there's something that I'm holding something. They may not get all through the whole wheel turning thing and realize that it's a cockatoo because I live way up north and I'm pretty sure Goody is the only cockatoo that lives in all of my small community. Um, so you don't see very many of them. Uh, so it just helps me really. So that's something that I do. Now, when people do approach me when they see Goody and ask about him, a lot of people will say, "Can I touch him?" Now, I know my bird is not super friendly with strangers, so usually what I'll do is I'll turn him around and I will grab onto his head or his face, and I'll let them pet his back because that gives me um, enough to put in front of me and the person, or the bird and the person, um, just to keep everybody safe. Now, if your bird is very friendly with people, then I definitely encourage to have other people touch your bird. Now, keep safety things in mind. Um, like I said, I live up north. We don't have crazy bird diseases around here that are prominent in the area, so I'm not worried about people touching my birds and potentially giving them something. But if that's something that's quite large in your area or is a risk for your bird, I recommend carrying a little bottle of um, hand sanitizer, just to be safe. Especially this time of year, you'll hear a lot of people say it's parvo season, so a lot of people are bringing around little things, hand sanitizer, just to be safe. Um, but if that's not a concern for you, I know some birds are vaccinated. I don't think Goody's ever seen a vet, so I don't even think he's vaccinated. Um, those are things you're gonna want to keep in mind. But as far as people touching your bird, I definitely recommend it. Even if your bird is not comfortable being touched by other people, I still recommend that you talk to people and that you interact with people and let them see that it's okay, because the more that they're exposed to these kinds of things, the more comfortable they will become over time. Uh, Goody, I noticed the first few times I took him outside, he was terrified. He didn't want to go near anybody. And then over time, I noticed that he was a little bit more adventurous. He likes to, he loves gardens, flowers, anything like that. So he'll go over, my next door neighbor gardens a lot, so he'll go over and he'll watch her and talk to her and see what he's doing. I also bring Goonie to my what was my college, and he had gone into an anatomy class one day, so I was showing everybody. It's a lot easier to show somebody on a big bird than a small bird. Budgies are nippy and really hard to handle and very easily stressed out. So I usually offer to bring Goonie into the class so that people can actually see what you're talking about. And I actually had one girl come right up to him and start petting his chest, and he did nothing. Um, and a couple years ago, that would have been totally out of the question. So exposure is huge for me. And I watched a video once, and I want to say it was on the Aviator Flight Harnesses DVD. That you get when you buy their harness, that said that, I believe it was them, and they made a comment to the effect of exposing your bird and giving them life experiences, and that the more life experiences you provide for your bird, the more fulfilled a life they will live. And that is so, like, it struck right home to me, because to me that is so true. If your bird lives inside and never gets to go outside, never gets to go play in the park, never gets to talk to people, that's a pretty boring life. And if you have to take many years to get your bird to the point where you can bring him outside, it's totally worth it. When I got Goonie, I could barely handle him. He bit me a few times. He's actually not a very aggressive bird. He was bottle fed. There's my puppy syndrome going on. He was a hand-fed baby, so he did understand people, and he did understand that affection could come from a person, and that it was okay. But he had lived for so long without any affection and without any like affection for people or any sort of really kindnesses, really. Like, he lived a pretty depressing life. It took a long time for me to regain his trust. And once he did, things really started to open up for him. And I know a lot of people look for like a cookie cutter way to do things, but birds aren't like that. Any animal really is not like that. Goonie, I progressed once I regained his trust, and I started trusting that he wasn't going to bite me. I could take him out more, and things just took off from there. He dinner with us. If you haven't watched any of my other videos, he's currently living with a friend of mine because him and my mother do not get along, and I'm living with my mom right now. He dinner with the family he lives with right now. He gets to talk to other birds. We bring him outside. He spends very little time in his cage. Pretty much in the morning when this family's at work, they come home for lunch. He gets to spend lunch out, and then they come home and he gets to come out again. So he's definitely come along very, very quickly, in my opinion. I've seen birds that take years for them to become comfortable with people again. And Goonie progressed really well. And I think it's a case of keeping up with your bird. Um, you have to keep pace with them. If they're not comfortable, like if you put a harness on your bird um, and bring him outside, and your bird is freaking out and trying to, hiding your shirt and biting you and just acting really, really out of the ordinary, um, you're going too fast. You might want to start looking outside the window or going into a gazebo so they're not really outside, but they are, um, and progressing your way up. But if your bird is going at a pace where, today is the first day he's going outside, and you're walking down the street, and he's being really good, and he's acting like himself, and he's not being nippy, he's not being flighty, he's not being territorial of you, or any he's letting you touch him, and somebody comes up and says, hey, I see you have this kind of bird, can I pet him? And they're bird savvy, and your bird lets him touch that, like that person is able to touch your bird. Like you gotta play with your bird, or run with your bird if that's the speed they're gonna go at. But I definitely think that there's no such thing as over socialization. You can't overdo it ever. The more people they can meet, the more places they can go, the better. Bring them into a vet clinic, bring them into a gas station, bring them into a restaurant, go to the grocery store, go into a pet store, walk around the pet store, go and look at fish, go and look at the hamsters, go downtown. Here where I live, there are a lot of little home, like mom and pop stores. So when Goonie's in town with me, I often go to, excuse me, I often go to the, let's see, there's a locksmith place, so we bring him there, and he goes to the pet store, we have a pet store, and then he goes to the hobby shop, which is, it's got like knitting stuff, whatever, craft store, and that store is a stationery store, excuse me, that's quite the cough. There's a thrift shop up the street, so we go as many places that will let him. So I definitely would not limit the socialization um, to any particular place or any particular person, so long as your bird is comfortable with it. So if your bird is acting like way out of whack, like he won't let you touch him, he's flying around, or he's trying to get away, that's a stressful situation. You don't want this to be a stressful situation. You might have to back up a few paces. If your bird is going with you, then keep going. Like I said, there's no such thing as over-socialization, in my opinion. That only makes for a better behaved bird, somebody who is capable of handling stressful situations. I get really upset when I see, mind you, it's mostly dogs. I don't see a lot of birds here. Like I said, Goonie is pretty much the only large bird in the area. He lives with the sulfur-crested cockatoo, but I think they're pretty much the only two in the area that I know of. But I see a lot of dogs who don't know how to handle certain situations. They don't know how to handle moving cars, or strange people, or other dogs. And that's scary to me, because if something were to ever happen, either outside or to you or to your bird, and they don't know how to handle that situation, everything becomes much, much more scary for them. Like, if they don't know how to handle cars and they get hit by a car, they're going to be terrified of cars forever. But if a dog who is normally outside and sees lots of moving cars and happens to get hit by one day, he might be a little leery of cars, but not terrified of them. So, if you have any other questions, please feel free to message me or comment on one of my videos. I've been looking for things to do videos on. So if there's any particular topic that you'd be interested in learning about, please let me know. I hope you learned something and enjoyed the nice weather that has been finally blessed to us. And that's it. I'm out. Hopefully my hand doesn't explode and it won't look like this next time.